I had to first realize what I was doing that was giving you a negative about me, that I didn't love
Perception, yeah.
you or had any, had no care about you. That for me was hard. I'm like, oh, how could that even happen? But I had to look at myself. Well, how have I been responding? How have I been available? How have I nurtured this relationship? Especially we're family, and to me, a family is should be a close relationship. I know it's not for everybody, and I'm still working on some of those areas of my family that have kind of slipped away. But I desire to have that closeness again. So that was the first thing, and that was me, because I get to control how I respond to my family members, the people that God has put around my life, my friends, my neighbors, whatever. So that's just about me. I can't expect everyone else to change so that
Right.
I can like them or interact with them or whatever. So that was the first thing, was figuring out how I was putting off a vibe that was not approachable. And that was hard for me to realize.
Hello, how's it going? Happy, happy, whatever time it is. We were just talking about that. We were just talking about how we might want to consider not saying good night or good morning or what
Yeah.
day it is or whatever. But hi, it's good to see you. My name is Bonnie Violet. I'm a transgender queer spiritual drag artist and digital chaplain, and my co-host here is.
Hi, everybody. It's Tina Frank, and I'm a mature Christian. I forget all the things that I am. Anyway, I'm excited to be here with you guys. And we are talking about the age old, I don't even know what to call it, the
Rule.
golden rule. Rule? Yeah, maybe. I was trying to think of something, finesse. I didn't do it
Right,
very
right,
well.
right.
But anyway,
The, the
so,
age-old saying, maybe? I don't know.
oh, sane would have been good. Man, see, I don't
It's
know.
all right. Let's try it again. No.
Okay. Anyway, we're going to be talking about the golden rule. And Bonnie and I were just having a conversation about that's not something that, at least not in our circles, that people talk about much anymore. So this should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I think, yeah, I mean, I think it is something, I think it's something that like a lot of people have heard at one point in time. And like even when we first started talking about it, it was like, where did that come from? Like it's something that
Yeah.
we hear all the time, but where did it come from? Is it in the Bible? Um, and you had actually found it, right?
Yeah, I did. I was like, because you and I were talking, like, I've heard that, and I wonder if it's one of those sayings that people think is from the Bible, but that's not really from the Bible. So, but it is. It is in the Bible. It's Matthew 7:12.
Hmm. And it's in
So,
that same, do you know what it's kind of spoken around?
what do you mean around? Like the
Like
verse is above it and below it?
the context, I guess.
You know what? I did
You
not
didn't go that far.
read through the
Okay.
whole chapter. I'm so sorry. So unprepared.
No, I mean I didn't ask you for that, so I didn't prep you. I
I
I
can
wasn't
tell you
mean to
who
set you
Matthew
up.
is if that's a
Right. That's one way to do it, huh? Well, and I think for me, I did hear like the golden rule. I do. I feel like I heard it a lot when I was younger.
Yeah.
Um, I think when I got into recovery, you would hear it a little bit every now and again from folks. They would mention it.
What context usually did you hear when you were in recovery? I'm just curious if you're willing to share.
I mean, I think probably something around kindness and like how to be with your fellow, like not to like, like gossip or, all those sorts of things that we can judge other people, all those sorts of things
Yeah.
that we don't like that we do and we end up doing to ourselves. And when we can kind of let go of that as best we can, at least I noticed that I was able to not judge when I'm not judging you as much, I'm not judging me as much. Um,
Gotcha.
and I don't know if that goes both ways. Like I feel less insecure when I'm not looking around pointing out what's wrong with everyone else. Like
Yeah.
usually, and I don't know if that's like when I'm doing that, that means that I'm feeling insecure, or because, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know which comes
Yeah.
first. Um,
I think that's a thought. I find that when I'm most insecure is when I'm trying to find someone else's challenge so that I
mm,
can feel like my challenge isn't as horrible as theirs. And
uh,
most of the time I'm making up my own challenge. So it's really
right,
it's
right, right.
usually never an issue anyway. So, but
Hmm.
yeah, that's when I find for me anyway. That's when I have to remind myself.
Right. Well, and a few years back, I feel like I came up with this. I'm sure I didn't, but like I liked the idea, like the golden rule to me, like I wanted more. Like it says, do unto others as you would have done unto you, right? So
Have
it's
them
like
do unto you. Yeah.
have them do unto you, right?
Yeah.
And so like I get that, but what I'd like to do is change it to, I think it takes it a little bit further, is do unto others as they would have done unto them. So, like, I'm going to treat you as you want to be treated, not as I think you should be treated, I guess. Or do you know what I mean? Or like,
Mm.
even not necessarily treat you as I treat myself, but maybe even more like it for you. I wanted to say hello to Nicole.
Hey, Nicole. Thanks for joining us.
Nicole says she's agrees with Tina. I am the same way. You can't agree with Tina already.
Yes,
I'm
already.
just
She's
teasing.
on my side, just saying.
Right. Not that there's sides, right?
I don't know. It depends on who you're asking.
Right. Well, I think one of the reasons why I kind of like the idea of like doing unto others as you would have them done unto them. um, Basically, like to me, is that idea is I think maybe as a queer person or somebody who is different, I think that there's often times that people don't want to acknowledge or notice, or like, I don't know, just acknowledge certain parts about myself that I might want to ask them. Like, say, I might want to ask them, like, I might want to ask them to call me by a different name or use a different gender pronoun, or maybe I don't like it when you touch me, but you didn't mean any harm by it, and you like it when people touch you and tickle you or whatever. You know what I mean? So I think just kind of in that sense, instead of like assuming what somebody else wants, or how they want to be treated, to maybe even ask them or do as. Do you know what I mean? Like put it
Yeah.
more in that direction.
Yeah, but I think this is and again, I wish I might just pull up my Bible and read it real quick. I think context is important now that you're talking about that, because I think you're trying to create an intimacy out of something that maybe wasn't meant to be completely
Mhm.
intimacy. This is the phrase, the way read it, is for us to use at any level when we're thinking that when we're having a negative thought. So I don't necessarily, if I'm meeting someone, know how they would want to be treated. You
Mm.
know, so I would want to treat them the way I would want to be treated if it was in an uncomfortable situation, or if someone, say there was an altercation of some sort and I was just happened to be in the room, I wouldn't want to get engaged. I'd want to treat
Mhm.
both of those folks as not knowing them, and in a way that I would want to be treated in this situation, and kind of just help them calm down or whatever that might look like.
Mhm.
So I think when you're talking about, maybe if you don't want to be touched and someone touching you, or changing your name or your gender pronoun, I think those are things for people when you get to know them and you kind of have some idea of who they are, and then that would be the question. So how would you like me to address you?
Right. Well,
Rather than just random.
yeah, well, and I think part of what it is I think is like being somebody who is choosing like a spiritual way of living,
Mhm.
choosing. I have a desire like you do to, to live outside of my box, to,
Mhm.
to meet new people, to like. So I think part of that is maybe taking the effort, and it's difficult because you can't just assume because somebody is this religion or somebody lives in this area or is LGBTQ or whatever, that like everything about them. But I think there might be like some cultural things, or there might be some like general things that might be helpful for you to be aware of, um, in different sort of settings. So I think it's not necessarily like an expectation, but maybe it's something we could challenge ourselves in doing.
I,
Um,
I think that's the key right there. This is the golden rule is something to help us improve.
It was to keep kids in order. That's all it was.
Well, that's how my
Just
mom used it, and I'm grateful because it worked and it helped me to
right.
stay on that little straight and narrow path that I needed to. But as an adult, and as I read it, even just on its own, it helps me to think about, in a situation where, okay, what if I'm in a situation where I get to make a choice, and I need to not always choose the choice that's going to only be beneficial for me. I need to choose the choice that I would want someone to choose for me. So let me give you an example. Say, I don't know, I had the opportunity to give someone a pay increase, or I got to decide their pay increase. I had to pick it between here and here. I would want someone to pick for me the higher increase. Or maybe not the higher increase. Maybe there's a series of benefits that would come around that maybe this benefit would be better than the increase. And I would want someone to choose based on the benefit of the whole and not just that monetary or that moment thing. So, and, as a business owner, and this makes sense because sometimes giving someone a raise is the easy thing to do, but offering them a 401k over the long haul is going to cost me more money. See, I could give them a raise and they'd probably be happy because now they can have an extra dollar every time they go to work and work those hours. But if I give them a 401k and I match that, in the long run, it's going to be better for them. So I could choose this cheaper for me. They're going to be happy. It's a settling point. But the right thing to do would be to choose this, because this is what I would want someone to choose for me if they were making that same decision for me.
Yeah. Well, and I think what I would challenge that to do is like, why not ask them what they would prefer? You know what I mean? Like if you're in a position to where you're like, okay, I would do this or I would do this other, I guess what this idea is why not ask them, would you want the 401k or would you rather take a raise? If I was in the position, if I had the power, and I think that's part of what it is I think when you're in a position of power or you kind of have the ability to hurt or harm somebody else potentially, then how can you give up that power, if you will, in order to help that person have a little bit more agency or have a more balanced experience? Again, it kind of just depends on, the different situations. And I think it's just kind of nuanced. But I think really for me, it's just to challenge me because I think the golden rule, yes, it's great. But I think for me, it's just to challenge myself to, like, can I go, how further can I take this? And I can go further with my understanding of do unto others as they would have done you know what I mean? Like I could just take that same thing forward, and it does not necessarily, like, it can also, like, it can hold that second statement as well. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of one and the same, or you could get the same results out of, I think, leaning with one or the other.
Yeah, potentially, I think you could, but that statement is all about who you are as a person. And how their interaction is their choice. You know what I mean? If I'm always doing the best that I can for somebody else, even at the cost of myself to a point, then I'm always going to do well. I think that whole statement there was for the purpose of us to ask ourselves: are you being selfish? Are you doing this for a self-serving moment? The one thing I've learned most over life is when I feel like the Holy Spirit's asking me why. Why are you offended? Why does that offend you? Sometimes it's really ridiculous. Or why would you say that? Why do you feel like this is going to be a bonus to you? Just having the Holy Spirit ask me these things, it reveals stuff about myself. So as I'm learning about myself, I'm also learning about how I can better serve someone else. So if I don't want to eat ramen noodles, why would I give those in my food pantry box that I'm going to donate to my church?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So, those are the kinds of things I think come to my mind. And those are the analogies that as I've become an adult and grew up that I had to always think about, oh, well, I wouldn't want to eat that. So why would I give that to them?
Yeah, and I think
they may not like that and think ramen noodles is the shiz, but someone else is going to give them that because I'm going to give them something that I feel is awesome. Maybe a hamburger.
Yeah, well, because like at the end of the day, it's like, how are you going to feel when you get handed that thing. Like you want, like when you're receiving something, you're gonna, whatever, and so it's like, why not afford another person that same experience? Maybe for somebody else it's ramen, and for another person it's cup of noodles. One and the same.
Right. And I think that comes with relationship, don't you think? The
Right,
rest
right.
of that, the starting point
Well,
here is do unto others. But as I get to know you, now I know what
mm,
you would like, what you would enjoy. But if
I
I
think
don't know you, the minimum I should do is what I would do for myself.
right. But I think just as much as you can go really deep with the golden rule, I
Hmm.
think you can take the statement that I made as fairly shallow as well. Like it doesn't have to be super intimate and deep. It could just be like, in a general rule, when I'm going to a room, I'm going to say my pronouns so that people who um, might have a different pronoun than they were had at one point in time in their life would feel comfortable, and maybe even see that I'm an ally, that I'm somebody who can see them or understand that they might be in the room. Like those sorts of things are things that we can do even with strangers. We don't know anybody in the room, but we do know that some people might feel a little bit more comfortable in a space if we do that thing. Asking
But what
somebody,
about
can
those who feel uncomfortable when you do that thing?
well, I mean, I think part of that is yeah, I mean, I don't know, because I don't understand how somebody would be uncomfortable with that.
I, you're right. Just like some people don't understand why it's necessary. So there's always going to be a difference. Do you see what I mean? Not just with
But I
this, but
think,
with lots of things.
yeah, and I guess my understanding is then, like, how do you, like, as folks who are trying to show up for people differently, like, are you willing to not, like, so maybe you don't like it, but you do it anyway for that other person, or vice versa. So I think that's part of it too, is just not necessarily like making assumptions, but also being mindful about what is it that I can do in order to have somebody have a different experience. Because at the end of the day, we all want to be seen, we all want to be heard, we really want to
How
be
do you
known.
know, though, that they want to have a different experience?
What do you mean?
Well, how do I know that that person wants me to recognize them in a different fashion than I already am?
You
I,
don't,
you know,
you wouldn't have to. All it would be is, like, in that particular situation, you would just be like, say, you as somebody who maybe you don't, maybe like you as somebody who, you know pronouns aren't an issue, right? But some people are really particular about their pronouns. Like, if you used he pronouns with me, I don't like that, and that. So like, so that, like, that's changed. But it's also like, um so why not, like, make the effort not to, to help that other person feel comfortable as people. And what I'm saying is, this is more of a challenge of, like, us as you and I, as, like,
mhm.
spiritual godly people who are trying to, like, do better, like, what I mean, do better, not just the status quo, to find ourselves in new rooms with new people, having new experiences. What are some of the things that we could do differently, potentially? And again, it's just thinking about it. That's not always going to be
Yeah, yeah.
the case. It's not always going to be the situation. There is a question or a comment here. Barry the gardener says, people may be uncomfortable with my pronouns, but at least using them gets the conversation going, which is a first step. Exactly. So, I mean, so I think part of that is too, I think it's a way, and it's also a way of signaling, as somebody who wants to be supportive, who wants to be, like, a loving, kind person, then that's a way that you can signal without saying. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you don't have to go up to somebody and say, hey, are you trans? You can say, like, hi,
Oh, see, I
I'm
would never
so,
say that.
like, hi, I'm so and so. And, but also, like, by you saying what your pronoun is, it helps other people know that you get it, like, or that you're
Mm.
aware of the fact that that there are people in the world who that matters to, and you're taking the time to that's just a signal. Like, that's something you can do that speaks to that person, that doesn't even have to be said, right?
So people prefer a pronoun over their name?
Not
I like to be
necessarily.
called by my name. I
Hmm.
when I introduce myself, hey, I'm Tina Frank. What's your name?
Right.
And
But
whatever name.
if somebody kept calling you he, if somebody kept referring you to as he, that probably wouldn't feel so great.
Hey y'all, it's me again, Bonnie Violet. I just wanted to take a second and thank my Patreon members. Patreon members are folks who contribute on a monthly basis anywhere from $3 to $150 a month to support the work of a queer chaplain. Big shout out to Victoria Thompson, Jason Brandt, Brandon Stanton, Kim Silva, Brandy McCarg, Randy Sandknot, Bob Kaiser, Joey Heckmeister, Violet Rhiannon, Gabriel, Jonathan, Petrick, and Todd Atkins Whitley. Thank you so much for your continued contributions. And if you're interested in joining the Patreon, just check the link in the description. Go to patreon.com/Bonnie Violet. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
I've never dealt with that challenge, but I always
Right.
present myself as a woman. So I think that would, I can't imagine.
But then at the end of the day too, it's like, what does it mean to present as a woman or to present as a
Well,
man or
I
present
think
as a non-binary person?
I think just as how I see someone. If I see someone in a beautiful gown, I'm assuming they're a she, or I'm assuming that their name matches how their outward appearance looks. I guess because if I don't know these people, I'm not sure that I'm comfortable. I don't know.
Right. Well, and I think that the big thing, and then I mean, I think, and it's actually National Pronoun Awareness Day or whatever.
Oh, okay.
But
I didn't know that.
but I think part of that too is there are some folks that you're not going to be able, you're not, just because you look at somebody, you're not always going to know
Right, but so
their
it's calling
gender.
them by their name isn't okay? Like, "Hey,
If you
Tracy,
know,
how are you? It's so
yeah,
nice to meet you."
if you
I don't
know their
care what
name,
people look like, but if
yeah.
I'm introducing myself, I'm gonna introduce myself as Tina Frank, and hopefully you're gonna introduce yourself as whatever your name is, and my
Hmm.
hope is that our conversation would be based on that.
Right.
All this other stuff are just semantics. If I'm having
But
a
I think those,
conversation with someone else, I mean, all those other things, I mean, I don't know. Maybe
yeah.
that's just me.
Well, and but what I'm and I hear that, and also I think if we're really trying to make space for different people, then
I don't
then
understand making space. I know we've talked about making space, and I think I don't know, is that another word for tolerance?
no,
Or
like, do you want people in your vicinity?
oh
Like, do you
yeah,
want to be in conversation with people? That's what I mean by
okay. So by me introducing
space.
myself, wouldn't assume that I want to have a conversation with them, or hey, hi Tracy, join me for coffee. Let's sit and visit. That's not. I don't know. I'm trying to understand what you're saying, and I
Hmm.
understand when you and I talk, it's important, and I'm working on that. But I feel like you and I have a different relationship, at least in this regard. Just because I knew you before
Right,
as a he, and
right,
I knew you that for like years, so I
right.
respect who you are, and I'm working on it. But once in a while, I slip, and I try to apologize
Exactly.
if I catch myself.
Yeah, yeah.
So for me, I feel like this is different. When I meet somebody new, um, I just meet them, and whoever they are, I embrace. And even if I don't agree with them, and that's not just in the gay and trans community and the LGBT. I'm sorry, I know I'm not going to say
Right.
all the letters.
That's
So
okay.
and that's just anybody.
Hmm.
That's not just that community. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Cece says, hi Cece. Cece says, right. So can you imagine being able to affirm and hold space for someone just by saying, hi, I'm Cece, my pronouns are she, her, and ending your emails with your pronouns? And what she's saying is just by doing that, I think especially oftentimes when if we're like mindful about like who we represent to other people. And again, these are just things that I do when I'm like, how can I be different in this space so that more people can feel like I'm here for them and not for me, or that it's more mutual at least, because and it was one thing that I learned. I remember when I first moved to Chicago, and I was like I had and this was more so like around race for me, is like I didn't understand, like I knew there was racial differences, and I knew that there was different experiences, but oftentimes I thought, oh, because I grew up poor and I grew up in a small town and I was aware that somehow like it was like I wasn't aware of how people might see me as a white person. That people might automatically, like, I know one of the things I was really frustrated about was that people assumed that I was rich, that I had money, that I had a good like life, that I was well educated, all these sorts of assumptions, which were all great, like great assumptions, right? Like those are actually
Mhm.
good assumptions. It wasn't like people were automatically thinking poor of me. But I remember being really like, no, you don't understand. That's not my experience. That's not, that's not, you know what I mean? That's not me. And I think it's just sometimes in the same way of just kind of like not not making that assumption. And so if I go in the room knowing that some people are going to be perceiving me as that person, especially say I'm working, because I had an opportunity where I worked with a lot of, I was the only white person at work a lot of the times. And so
Mhm.
I had to really come to learn and understand that, like, I don't know, there was just sometimes where people were used to culturally these different ways of interacting with one another that was kind of at play, that were creating these dynamics that I wasn't even fully aware of. And there were things that I could begin. So if I knew that people were going to make those assumptions of me, and if a person like that was coming in the room, do you know what I mean? It's like, that's just going to help me be a little bit more mindful about how I am in the space and what I say, um, what I might not say, those sorts of things. I don't know if I explained that quite that well, but that was just another example just to kind of get out of the pronoun world. And if you want to, like, and I think sometimes when we wear badges or identities that are assumed to not be supportive to someone, then that's when I think it's even more important to to like make an effort to say something to help them see that you understand or that you get it. Because otherwise, people, like, as a conservative Christian woman,
Mhm.
going into an LGBTQ space, going into that space and saying, hi, I'm Tina, I use she, her pronouns, is going to go so much further. And I'm a Christian or whatever, you know what I mean? Like those sorts of things are known about you when you come into the space just by saying your she, her pronouns. All those other people are going to feel a little bit more safer, or at least maybe she's not one of those. Maybe she's not one of those Christians. Do you know what I mean? Just by you saying that little thing. And that's what I'm meaning by this idea of doing unto others as they would have done unto them. Could maybe be a useful tool in helping us to be, in company with 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 people different from our own experience.
Yeah,
And,
I agree that understanding people that you want to engage with and grow a relationship with, I think that's important. But
mhm.
as for day to day life, that you're making decisions that affect other people, I think if you know that you're doing at least what you would want it done for yourself, I think is a good baseline.
Yeah. Well, and I think, but part of that is like really dig deep down to what it is. I think if we really deep down to what it is that we want for ourselves, it
Hmm.
probably would include maybe making one of those accommodations here or there.
And it might.
I don't know.
I don't question the word of God. I trust it. It's worked for me in my life. It's made me into the woman that I am. It's given me the opportunity to understand and love people
Mm-hmm.
far beyond any capacity that I thought I would. It's changed me. If I even look different, if you look at pictures over the years, you know me. You've been
Right.
part of my life for forever. Um, it's changed me,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, so I don't modify the word of God, and that doesn't mean that I don't adjust or whatever. That's my
But you do,
foundation.
right. But you interpret it to how it fits for you,
What do you mean?
or your understanding of it. Not that you're like, I realize that might have said in the sense of like, oh, you're interpreting it so that it works for you, but more in the sense you're interpreting it in a way that you understand it, which can be different from person to person, because we all might want to be treated differently.
Yeah, I guess that's true. We
But
can
also,
all understand the word in a different fashion, I guess.
right, but there are probably still some core elements to that, right? Like,
Mhm.
I want people to be kind to me. I want people to be honest with me. I don't want them to steal from me. You know, like those sorts of things I think are pretty, you know, like we can get behind that, right? Like
Yeah.
that's pretty under like kind of basic level stuff. And maybe some of this other stuff is just, you know, maybe not, maybe it's too much for some people. Maybe it's not, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't know. I've had to, because if I think about it, like, you know, like, I don't know, you know, I've had to let go of some things that I might prefer for myself, or that maybe somebody else says or words or does that I might not care for. I sometimes have to look past that, right? And
Hmm.
we
We all
we
do.
get right. And so I think part of that is just you know, like with anything, and I'm not saying the golden rule is bad.
I know.
I think
I know.
I'm all for it, and also like and I think that even with what I'm saying, I think it still falls in line with the golden rule. Like I don't think I'm asking for anything outside of the golden rule, but again, it kind of just comes down to interpretation and how we talk about it and how far we want to take it, or where we want to take it, right? Or how we want to
Yeah.
take it. Like I might think that, oh, understanding pronouns and knowing that I'm coming in, like people are going to perceive me this way when I come into this space, like I might find that helpful and something that I want to do when going into a space. Like that seems important to me, but it might not be for somebody else. And and that's, you know, that's just where they're at. And for me, okay, like that's how they are.
Yeah.
Um, but I want to challenge, I want to understand myself. I want to be able to be in a room with somebody who is like really uncomfortable about pronouns and doesn't want to participate or whatever. Like I can handle that. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't understand it, but I would like, okay, well, I'm not going to press you to, you know, to tell me what your pronoun is, or you know, whatever it is that's making them uncomfortable or whatever. To some degree, you know, and
Yeah.
again, it's
Yeah.
probably the setting, the environment, maybe the tone, and maybe how I'm feeling that day, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
You know, like it just comes down to that sometimes. How about folks that are listening to us? What do you think? What are your thoughts? I think there still are a few people on. Looks like we've had 5 steady people the whole time, which is cute. Mm,
At this stage in my life, for me, the golden rule is doing the best that I can to
mhm,
love, and to me, love is just one language, and it's being real, being honest, being vulnerable,
mhm,
and being willing, being willing to do all those things, being willing to walk into a space that makes you uncomfortable and introducing yourself, and doing it because you want to, not because you have to.
mhm,
And as you get to know people, then understanding who they are and being willing to allow them to be who they are, and hopefully in return, if the relationship's moving in the right direction, they would allow me to be who I am, and still find a place to love one another. I have to be honest. I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older. Maybe I'm lazy. I don't know, but I don't want to have to learn another language to tell someone that I love them or to show up for them. For me, I really am not a stickler on all of that. I just like people. I just care about what's happening to people. I don't want to see people suffer in any capacity. I want people to know that they are important and that they have value, and that each one of us, no matter what our pronouns are, has a purpose. For me, pronouns are beautiful, lovely, um, majestic. Those are the kinds of pronouns when I see people, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're beautiful. I don't always see the gender things, and I don't know if that's wrong. Then I apologize. And I will be respectful, and I'll do my best to address people the way they want to be addressed. But man, just call me Tina. I'm good. And I even answered to, hey, you, that lady with the gray hair, you looking at me, whatever. I answered all that. It doesn't matter to me. But I want to do my best. So hopefully that's not a negative tick in my box.
No, I mean, I think
for anyone who, has been listening or thought that I might be okay, because I feel like I'm okay.
yeah, I mean, I think only like for something not to be an issue for you is a privilege. When it's an issue for somebody else, it's not, right? And so I
Well,
think
it's an
that's where
issue
the
for me
difference.
to be categorized with all those people. Just because Christians are known as hateful, for me to say that, automatically there's an assumption made unless I present myself in a certain capacity without even knowing me. So isn't that the same kind of thing that we're talking about?
Well, no, I mean, no, I don't. I mean, I think yes, right? Yes, it is
Mhm.
to some degree, right? Like if people want to, but I think, like there are a lot of things that that don't impact me personally,
Mhm.
that that I just get to not worry about and not think about. And so I think that's something that I'm coming to understand more and more as I get older. I mean, and right now people are able to kind of prescribe that as privilege, but the fact that I don't have to worry about, like I didn't have to worry about going in a grocery store when I was living in Chicago and thinking that people were like I was going to steal stuff, because like I never knew what that was like to go into a store and people just assume that I'm going to do this, that, or other because of the way that I looked, because of the color of my skin, because of the clothes I was wearing, because of whatever, those sorts of situations. I've never had that experience. I don't know what it's like to have that experience. So I mean, I think that's so it is an issue. It's an issue to those people who have to be on the other end of that. And so I think it's just about trying to come to understand, well, like how then can, like I don't know, it's like how then can I have some compassion or understanding or whatever that somebody else is having that experience, even though it's it's not impacting me, because the fact that it's not impacting me, like that's privilege. That's something we all have. Privilege isn't necessarily a bad word.
Right.
I know sometimes it feels that way, and a lot of harm can come from privilege. Whenever anybody has power over somebody else, that's not, that's icky. That's a
Does
difficult.
Oh,
Go
I
ahead.
agree. I agree. But does compassion have to look a certain way? I mean, I can't be compassionate without responding in the way that's expected for me to respond to show compassion.
I don't know, because, well, I think part of it, again, I think it does come down to a little bit of this and that, but Tina, I mean, you and we've had these conversations
Oh, yeah.
before, and you've made, like, I think you said something about like you're too old and you're not like willing to learn the language or do the work, but
I said, I
you
don't know what
have
my problem is, but
no, but you have been, like, you have been showing up with me, and you have been like,
absolutely.
you know what I mean? Like you've been meeting the things that I like you've been doing your best to meet those, even if you don't understand them, even if it's not like your whatever, so I mean, so you are like, you
Right.
are doing those things.
Because I love you.
Right.
And I want I want you to know that I love you. And I'm just so yeah.
I
So
know,
in that
but it was hard,
it was
for
hard.
me to know that you love me until you started making the effort to call me Bonnie
Right.
Violet, and to you know what I mean? Like, and so those are and that's, I guess those are just I don't know where I was going with that, but I mean, that meant the world to me. And
Yeah.
that kept me answering your phone call and wanting to spend time, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
you like made those little steps. There's a few comments that are coming
Yeah.
up. Did you want to read?
I'm
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead. I said I'm always willing to make those steps. Again,
Right.
I just wanna love people, and I do have compassion for what
Hmm.
people are going through. It breaks my heart to see what people are going through in all
Yeah.
different types of scenarios. So yeah,
Right.
we should read some of these. I think we got a whole
Do you want to read
piece.
Cece's
I
statement?
can. Was there some ahead of that? CC Finley says, I'm married. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. No,
I'm
go ahead.
married to a pastor, and I'm a crisis pastor in the Deep South. So I carry a deep privilege within me. That's why it's so important to face that privilege every day and do. That's good wisdom.
And this is the rest of
And
it.
and do everything I can do to keep space. That's good. Tina, you've said they and them a whole lot. You're doing it already. And I am trying. I just don't want the
Yeah.
pressure of meeting someone for the first time and trying to say it right and say it wrong. If I get to
Mhm.
know somebody, I mean, totally, I want to respect who they are. I want to,
Right.
and the only assumptions I have never come out of my mouth until I know somebody,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Well, and I think that's, I mean, and I think that's just, like, again, like as you and I, who are people who are trying to show up in places
Yeah,
with people different than us, these are some things that we might want to think about depending on like if,
absolutely.
depending on the group that we're going into. Like I might know if I'm going into, say, a bunch of conservative Christians, and again, this is just an assumption, right?
You're
I
good.
I might decide, me saying my pronouns or like whatever might not go so great. So is that something I need to need to do? I don't know, like I think,
Yeah,
but I would
I
still
think,
kind of, I don't know.
yeah, I think you should enter a room the way you want. You know what I mean? The rest of that is for everyone to weed out.
It's so
Your,
hard though, like that,
yourself included.
there's a lot of, I get that, but there is a lot of
I know.
privilege to get to do that, like to just show up in a room and be like, okay, sure, whatever happens, happens. I am who I am, because
Yeah,
that's not always a safe
it's not safe. It's not safe
thing
at all, but
for some of us.
that's the growth in it though.
But
Don't
more than just like, oh, I might
for not
feel
just you, but
uncomfortable.
for yeah, but for everyone else. I know I try to I do that. I've been in
Yeah.
situations where I have to. I know it's different than the situations that you're in, but I've just decided, time is too blazing short. Let me just tell you, with all the stuff going on with COVID and with all of us who have lost people that we just love so much, I'm sick and tired of, forgive my French, pussyfooting around and trying to make everybody comfortable and not being able to love people and to not be able to be who I'm created to be. And so when I go into a space, I'm not going to be offensive. I'm not going to be boisterous and rude, but when I come into a space, I want to come as me. And I want to come and I want to tell you my name. I'm probably going to hug you. If you have a mask on, don't worry, I'll ask first. If you don't have a mask on, you're probably fair game. I'm probably going to, if you stand next to me, probably engage in a conversation no matter what you look like or where you're from or how you smell, even, because that's how I want to enter a room and that's how I want to be seen. And if y'all have a problem with me, then that is really not about me. If I have a problem, someone that loves me and has a relationship, will tell me, because those would be the only people I'd receive that from. But man, I'm tired of being conscious of, oh, my shirt looks goofy. Oh, my hair is not exactly right. Oh, I'm supposed to be this way because this is the kind of an event. No, I was invited to this event, so I'm coming. I'm coming as me.
Yeah. But that's like a, that's like a you centered instead of like a
Maybe.
somebody else.
But would
Like
you want
that's
me
a
to come up?
me
But would
kind
you
of
want me to show up as
statement.
someone else? Would you want me to come up and not be all of who I am? Then I feel I'm stifled.
No, and I think part of it is to be you, and what things can I do
Oh,
to help other
absolutely.
people have the same experience, right?
Yeah. That's why, like, you don't enter in rude, you don't enter in boisterous, you don't enter, you know what I'm saying? None of that. I just like, when I come, I need to bring all of me, or I can't really go.
Yeah.
And I even at church, people tell me, you need to stop hugging people so much. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I'm really sorry. I can't do, or when we have our little short greeting time, it's short greeting time. So, but anyway, sorry, I don't want to
Right,
take this
right.
sideways.
Kayla says hello,
Hey,
and
Kayla. Oh, your
Dominique,
picture.
yeah, and then this is Dominique. So
Oh, okay.
Dominique is
Sorry.
saying it's disrespectful to not address someone by their pronouns. If I told you my pronouns are she and her, and you didn't respond, if you would be so suspicious, you'd be suspicious in my mind. So basically, I wouldn't trust you. I wouldn't feel comfortable around you if you weren't willing to, respond to me as I would like, as I see myself and how I want you to see me. And Christine says, safe in quotes, though, is very different for me as a term than for my trans child. I have the privilege of knowing I might be uncomfortable, but my trans child might be harmed in an unsafe space.
True. That's so true.
Very well said. Like, that's kind of what I was trying to get at. And I think you were just able to, like, boom, like put it right into perspective. Thank you, Christine. And then Barry the Gardener, do you want to read that one? I haven't read it yet, but do you want to read it?
Okay, if I can. When you're at your own church, you are in your comfortable place. It is a place for you to focus more on the visitor and think about how welcome they feel. You're right.
Yeah. And again, it's part about like the culture, right? It's like the culture of that environment. Some environments, it's totally cool to like, maybe you hug everyone because you're at church and you know everyone, and that's a thing. In some situations, some settings, they want, like, I've learned to ask people, like, I love hugging people. Like, I'm a hugger. But I still will say, do you mind? Like, can I give you a hug? Is it okay if I give you a hug? Are you a hugger? Or, and there have been times when I didn't want to be hugged too, but, and those are just,
I think there's discernment when we walk in a room, but I wouldn't want
some of us, some people I feel like can't read the room. It's like sometimes there's
I don't get it wrong every time, just saying.
Well, I'm not necessarily like with you, but I'm always surprised when, like, because some folks, we just don't know these social cues, right? We've never been in these different environments. We never knew that there might be a different way of doing something, or that other people might not do it the same way, but yeah, I guess, check the room, right?
Yeah.
We are right at 45 minutes. So thank you everyone who joined us today. If you're coming, if you're here with us live, we are live every Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can see us on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch during that time, or you can listen to us afterwards wherever you listen to podcasts at Splintered at Splintered Grace. And if you want to get connected with us or support the show, there's links in the description. We'd love to hear from you. Do you want to take us out, Tina?
No, I think you did a great job.
And thank you for this conversation today, Tina. I know that it was great.
I'm happy. I'm learning so much. Not just from you, but just from everyone who participates in our conversation. And I appreciate your grace, because I'm still learning, and I do have a desire to, just to be a blessing and to get to know you guys. So thank you for all that. And I appreciate your feedback, and, pray for me, because I want to, I just want to be a blessing.
I mean, I feel like, you keep showing up, you listen, you share what's going on with you. That's all we both do with each other. So I just want to affirm that. A lot of people don't show up in a person like Maya's life in the way that you do. And I just don't want you, like, I just don't want to take that for granted. And I want you to know that I see you, and I know, you know what I mean? Like, I get it.
Yeah.
Even if it might seem like,
you know what? Yeah. I'm grateful that we get to go on this journey together, because this is a learning journey for both of us. So, and I'm grateful for it. So anyway, you guys have a great week. We don't want to get sideways again. So thank you for joining us today on Splintered Grace. Mwah.
Take care and see you next week. Where's that button? Here we go. Splintered Grace podcast is brought to you by A Queer Chaplain. Follow us on all of our social medias, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at A Queer Chaplain. Listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe, comment, like, and share. Feel free to tip us at Venmo, Bonnie Violet, and support monthly on Patreon. The song is original by Steven Sandnoff, The Chasm Between Us. Rest in peace, Steven.
Hey, how's it going? Bonnie Violet here. I'm a trans femme, genderqueer, spiritual drag artist, and digital chaplain. And in case you didn't know, I could really use your support. Engage, rate, subscribe, follow, comment, share this episode, book me to keynote, panel, guest on your show, or officiate your wedding or memorial, in or out of drag, collaborate, join the team, be a guest, make a pitch, sponsor an episode, join my Patreon, send me a tip on Venmo or PayPal. Just do something. Thank you so much for your continued support. Check out the links in the description.